Good afternoon. I'm Sangram. I run the commercial banking coverage group in the bank. And what we wanted to do today was to spend a little bit of time talking to you about one of the key segments of growth for us, which is, in a sense, it's MSME plus. Amitabh spoke about it earlier in his presentation about SBB, CBG, and mid-corporate. So the way we look at it is there is the micro businesses, or which are part of retail, then commercial banking, as well as the emerging corporates, which are part of mid-corporate. And that's what I wanted to spend a little time today on. I think all of you are very familiar with the way MSMEs have evolved, how important they are to the economy, to exports, to employment. So I won't spend too much time on it, but just want to call your attention to a couple of things which have been happening. One is the rate of formalization has certainly changed. GST had come in, and that sort of helped, but Udyam registration came in, and a little over a year back, let's say about 2 years back, the number of enterprises that had gotten registered under Udyam registration was about 2 million or so, 25 lakhs. Today it's over a crore. It's come to about 1.2 crores. So the rate of formalization of the MSMEs has certainly gotten faster. Partly to do with all the digital effort that's happening, but also partly one has to recognize the fact that there has been generational shifts. Our perception, a lot of our perception about the way MSMEs work is maybe 15 years old, 20 years old, 25 years old. And as the second generation, third generation is coming in, a lot of those perceptions are changing. More specifically, in the recent times, there have been some very important tailwinds which are helping this entire sector. For instance, PLI, Atmanirbhar, all the Make in India initiatives, which start from the big corporates, but there's a very strong trickle down to the MSMEs as vendors, as suppliers, as service providers, as distributors. Globally, there are a lot of people who are trying to diversify the supply chain, and hence there is some impact of that on the way exports will grow. Domestic demand has been healthy. And in addition, there has been a bunch of initiatives that have been taken in the recent past, which will probably help grow the MSME space in itself. So TREDS, Samadhan, all these efforts are, in a way, they're pushing up the growth of the segment. And that's why we get pretty excited by this space. We believe that for the next 10 years or so, there'll be great opportunity here. And hence, the entire effort on sharpening our focus and sharpening our strategy around it. Earlier in the day, you saw in the presentation about the growth. We've grown this business at about 28% of CAGR. We were 2.5 years back, this was 14% of the assets. Today, it's about 20% of the assets. It's a pretty healthy business, profitable. I think when I was speaking to some of you earlier, you were also mentioning the fact that it is profitable. A lot of that is driven by the fact that the operating expenses are very benign in this business. And some of that is driven by the fact that there is great opportunity in driving revenues, not just from lending, but from other aspects. And we'd love to talk about that here. It is a PSL accretive business, well provided for. And one of the strengths that we bring in is the fact that it's very well connected with our branch network. So all the product verticals, they have their own sales team and they drive a lot of sales, but nearly 2/3 of our new business comes with the help of the branches, which acts as a multiplier. Now, as we go forward and talk more about how we think of these areas, I would like to, before I go into depth, I would like to leave 3 thoughts with you about the way we think about it and how that sort of shapes our strategy in this area. First is the recognition that while we make it into a very small acronym of MSME, it is an extremely diverse segment. You can think of it as very small businesses to fairly large, complex businesses, and hence their needs, their requirements from banking services, their growth potential, everything is very different. And we recognize that thing and we respect that diversity, and then hence our strategy around this entire space is constructed keeping that in mind. The second aspect is that lending is a very important aspect of the business, but I think it gets a disproportionate mind share. MSMEs, when they look to us for banking, not just lending. And that's again our approach, that while lending will continue to be a very important aspect, but that doesn't take away the importance of the other parts of the business that we do with them. And how important is that segment for the rest of the bank? And finally, underpinning our execution around this has been our transformation project around Sankalp. I'd love to talk about that. We have a booth outside and would request whenever you have the time to please have a look at it. I think everyone understands the geographic distribution of MSMEs in India and the fact that, if you got to serve them, you got to be in front of them. This is not the kind of business that you can do remotely. You need to sort of have your finger on the pulse of what's happening with the customer. But equally important is the way we segment our approach. So we start with SBB, which is a small business banking, part of the retail assets. We have small enterprise and medium enterprise group, which is part of commercial bank. And then we have mid-corporate, which is actually part of wholesale bank. But together, these 4 business lines actually go and serve these customers. And what that allows us to do is to sort of right-size the solution that we are trying to bring to the customer, not go with a one-size-fit-all, because the requirements are different. The type of customers which are in these various segments are very different. So we try to avoid a one-size-fit-all. We try to break it up into segments, keep the segment focused there. That allows us to differentiate the way we think about credit underwriting in every segment, the way we think about risk management, and the way we think about client selection. Those are extremely important things about managing these segments well. Like I said, people think of MSMEs as one group, but if you just think of the total number of MSMEs that are supposed to be there in the country, it's humongous. It's not one homogeneous group. The other aspect of segregating in this way is that we are able to manage customers through their life cycle. Many customers start with SBB or SAG, but over time they graduate. And we've been in this business for a long time. It's I think, one of the greatest pleasures of being in the business is to meet customers who've been with us for 10 years, 15 years, who start telling us they started with a 1 crore line or something and now have entered into wholesale banking group. Some of them have had IPOs, etc. This segmented approach allows us to execute that strategy well. And hence, this is one of the pillars of our efforts around this particular segment. The other other fact that needs to be recognized is, again, talking about the diversity. MSMEs are across various business verticals, right? And their needs, again, are going to be extremely different. So whether they are traders or manufacturers or exporters, there tends to be thinking which talks only about lending, only about one simple solution. So right at the starting end, it could be very simple solutions like business loans or distributor financing, which may be required by let's say a micro borrower. But as you go up the chain, there are more evolved products that are needed. They may require buyer's credit. They may require more involved term loans with more involved assessments, and they require a whole lot of non-lending services, which are around deposits, around forex. As you saw in the beginning, nearly half the exports in the country are from the MSME, and there is a lot of requirement of delivering forex-related services to them, whether on forwards or just supporting their trade forex or helping the importers. So the way we sort of break it up is bring in all the aspects, all the capabilities of the bank, which are sitting, let's say, in the wholesale banking product side, in the treasury side, etc., and be able to bring them all to the customer. That allows us to make sure that we are getting maximum share of the wallet. And again, that overhang of only seeing it as a lending business, that goes away. We see it as a full coverage business. Again, extremely diversified book. This becomes important from us from a risk management point of view. The book is extremely well diversified when it comes to the size of the loan, and which is linked to the size of the customers. It is geographically well diversified, and I think it's sectorally extremely well diversified. And this is important because as you go through these segments, you will hear of times when some segments are doing better because there is buoyancy in export demand, or there are some other factors which are affecting it, and some segments are doing not so well. But that sort of evens itself out when you have a well-diversified book. And this has been one of our key focus, to make sure that we run a very granular book in this business, and we ensure on diversity, we avoid any sort of concentration here. And a combination of this diversity and the product selection that we do. Sorry, this is not. Yeah. Oops. Yeah, a combination of our product selection and the fact that we have a lot of diversity in differentiation in the book ensures that we are able to keep the risk under control. There is always a concern around risk when it comes to MSME, but we've been able to grow in this business disproportionately. We are trying to gain more market share, but keeping the risk well under control. And these are some of the elements which allow us to do that. A very important aspect of our business is also that how are we getting a larger wallet share? And I think in that sense, this particular MSME segment is extremely unique in the opportunity. When we go and start doing business with a client, we start from the enterprise solutions. We are giving banking solutions to that entity, whether a small enterprise or a medium enterprise or micro enterprise, from entity point of view. It could be working capital lending, it could be trade finance. But our intent is to not just limit it to the enterprise solution, but also look at the promoter. These are all promoter-led businesses by definition, and there is a fairly good opportunity on making sure that we are able to get the promoters banking, and in many cases we are able to get the employees banking itself. So when we see the segment beyond the most obvious aspect of the balance sheet advances contribution, it becomes extremely important in driving some of the other parts of the business. You can see the impact that it has on treasury, forex income. We get nearly half of our current account balances from them. Very interestingly, we started private banking over the last few years, and it's become a good contributor to providing customers for the private bank. So this is one of the things that which is important for us, linking to the first slide, where the reason why we are able to make this into a healthy RAROC business and get good operating efficiency is because the revenue stream is not limited to one or two products. There are multiple products which we are able to offer there across the business, across the individual personal banking, and hence we are able to combine it all together and get a good, healthy revenue. Now, underlying all this thinking about having different segments, having a variety of products which to offer to the different customers, and making sure that we are able to cross-sell everything is the execution layer, right? This is a very high-touch business, and we recognize that, and again, we sort of think that's a great advantage to have. But that required us to work on transformation. So over the last 2 years, while we've done a lot of other things, we've also worked on transforming the way we interact with our customers and transforming the type of customer journeys that we have. Again, like I mentioned, there's a demonstration booth outside where we can take you through it. But MSME lending has typically been far more frictionful than retail lending. And our effort here has been to smoothen out that friction, not take away the human element out of it. For us, that is an extremely important part. The RM being there in front of the customer, the underwriter in talking to the customer, understanding what the businesses are extremely important aspects. But what Sankalp has been able to do for us has been able to look at all the other part of the journeys and see what can be digitized, take away paper, reduce the turnaround time, reduce the number of documents that we are collecting. So it reduces the friction that the customer feels when they're getting onboarded. The journey is not completely over, but we've had pretty decent results up till now. But we'll continue down this path, and as more and more APIs come in, as more and more service provider come in, more and more information gets digitized, we will look at making it even more efficient, bringing all those processes into a digital manner, and making sure that the physical aspect of the process becomes a true value add, which today it is, and we would like to protect that and make sure that Sankalp makes both our processes more efficient as well as the customer experience more effective. The other aspect of Sankalp has been on the way our RMs, whether they are sourcing loans or whether they are sourcing current accounts or whether they are sourcing a forex services, how are they interacting with our customers? And again, like I mentioned, it is a very high-touch business. This is not something that gets done remotely. There are self-service options once the customer is on board, but at the time of onboarding, customers want to get the confidence that they're going to be dealing with some banker who will be able to give them the right advice for their banking. And that's where the Sankalp RM efficacy app comes in. basically it's a tool that we provided to our frontline, where they're able to plan their day, they're able to plan their meetings, they're able to see what's happening with their client. There is a lot of involvement even after acquisition here, where our RMs have to deal with our clients to understand what their evolving needs are, how to deepen the relationship, how to get more cross-sell from them. And today, all of them are onto this particular app that gives us a whole lot of visibility about what's happening in the entire portfolio, how many meetings are happening, how many reviews are happening, what cross-sell has been pitched to the client, what has been taken, what alerts do we need to send to our RMs. So the entire portfolio management becomes extremely efficient. And have a look at it if you get a chance. The results that we've seen is our client interactions have gone up significantly because we were measuring it well. We were prompting the RMs to go and meet the client if they had not met the client in a while. That has led to about 50% increase in the new business acquisitions. That we have seen both in the lending side as well as in the current account acquisition side. So this has been the way we are sort of taping it all together in this particular segment of the MSME and mid-corporate, using multiple business segments of SBB, SEG, MEG, and mid-corporate, and leveraging a data infrastructure which has been created under Sankalp to both drive loan originations as well as client interaction. Thank you, and I think we'll take the Q&A after the next session. Thanks a lot.